Okay. Hey, well, hi, Konyuk. Natalia Schneider is joining me today. I am the program coordinator of Subsequentla's Grow Your Own Future Teachers program. And I am so glad to have someone who is starting out on their teacher journey, but who already, I think, has a lot of experience teaching. And so I would love for you to just introduce who you are and then share with us and with our aspiring young Indigenous educators, why or how you decided to become a teacher.
Totally. So to my Kangyok, Achunachmute, or sorry, Elanka Achunachmute, Shunamisu ang Lilua, actually. So I was born and raised in Kodiak, Alaska. My indigenous name is Kongyok, which means wave. And then my English name is Natalia Schneider. My family is from Fognak Island as well as Kodiak. Ilanka Kechdachmute. And yeah, teaching has been something that has kind of just come to me as I've gotten older. Initially, I was like, oh no, you could never see me in a classroom. And that's the other thing is I don't want to teach in a typical classroom. So I kind of began this journey. I'm 19 years old now. So began this journey. I'm still very young. Um, when I was like for me, I would like to teach my indigenous language. So to begin with that, elders used to speak with me when I was little. From there, one of my mom's previous students, actually, my mom taught for a long time, still teaching now, actually. One of my mom's previous students would pick me up after school, and we would go speak Lutek or Sochsun. And from there, it was just kind of like learning was so much fun with her. There was no like, oh, you're doing like after school stuff. It's not like that. It wasn't like that. And that's how that person is. And she has um, a natural way of teaching or like just being enthusiastic with it. And so that was really inspirational to me. From there, I don't know. I personally struggled with some teachers that I had in like middle school and high school. And I was like, geez, it'd just be so much easier if they did this. Or I would ask my mom and I'd be like, Mom, I'm just not doing well in this class and I don't understand why. And so, in some ways, seeing what I didn't like with school kind of made me want to be a teacher so that other kids don't have to go through that. And the biggest thing for me is to let kids have the opportunity to learn our language in a school setting is really what inspired me to go from a learner to a teacher.
Awesome. So you had some powerful modeling in terms of someone that made learning really fun for you. And then you also had some modeling that was like, okay, I'm not going to do it this way.
Mhm.
And I love your commitment to teaching language. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about why you believe that teaching your language, why you have such a passion for teaching your language, why you want to pass that on, and then also like where are you now in your journey? Like how where do you stand in your teacher journey?
Mhm. Yeah. I think culture belongs to a community. And my community in Kodiak in Alaska was one of the first points of colonization and one of the longest standing points of colonization. Um, with that being said, you see within my community that there's a lot of brokenness, a lot of heartache, and a lot of like subconsciously sick kind of people. And so I see culture and I see language as a way of healing. I think traditionally our people had ways of grieving and had ways of handling how to stay healthy and keeping up on their mental health. And in all honesty, a big reason I want to teach is so that students feel a self, what's it called? Like they feel pride within themselves. They understand what their cultural identity is. Maybe not fully, but they understand that it's there. Um, Me growing up as a very white passing child, that was very hard for me at times. Yeah. And then from there, it was like, well, my mom instilled this huge sense of like self dignity and like, you are native. There's nothing, that can take that away from you. That's within you. And then um, for me to not really like struggle with that, I didn't really struggle with my cultural identity. And I see so many kids that do that, grew up in a village. I didn't grow up in a village, or look stereotypically native. Not that that makes them more native than me, but like the appearance difference of like, I look native, and like I do too in aspects, but my hair is naturally blonde, and struggling with some of those appearance differences for some people that are like learning our language now is huge. But again, I grew up in a household where that wasn't the case. And so through teaching, teachers spend a lot of child's day, like with them, spend a lot of the day with the kids. And so like there's a big influence, age 5 through 18. It's a lot of a person's life. That's a lot of where growth happens, or a lot of growth happens within that time. But anyway, so self dignity, and like the understanding that you can be indigenous like with different looks, and being indigenous isn't one way. That's a big reason why I want to teach my native language. And I also just really enjoy speaking it. It really fills me up. It doesn't empty my cup. And I like learning new things constantly. I said this when I talk to everybody, but like, to stay, as a relevant teacher, you got to keep learning. If you don't keep learning, then, your knowledge, you got to learn more. And then what was the other question?
My question was, where are you in your journey of becoming a teacher, and how did you get there? Where do you see yourself going? What's next? And
Mhm.
just for our viewers, to share a little bit about how you are teaching right now.
Yeah, totally. So like I said, I had language learners that were teaching me from a young age, and I got a lot of time around elders when I was little. From there, my mom and I would be like, oh, we should do something. There's nothing for language and culture at the middle school. She was a middle school teacher, so we do stuff after school. From there, it stemmed to like into high school. I took the language classes and I got dual credit for them at our high school. And I worked on my occupational endorsement certificate in Alutiiq Sugpiaq language. And from there, I worked in the summers at the culture camp, and I taught some things there. I helped teach dance. Dance is also something that is very like encouraging for me too throughout all of this. Because sometimes when I get tired of learning language, I'll go sing, or something to kind of unfill me in that way, and fill my brain a little bit. And so I worked on my certificate all throughout high school, and I graduated May 2020. So COVID really like put me off the rails, honestly. And I was like, I need to stay home. I need to be with my grandparents. Like I need to be home, because the school I'd planned to go to was very far away. And I did it online for a little bit. That worked enough for me. I got my credit that I needed, but I ended up taking the next semester after that off, and I worked a lot on language, and I worked a lot on I think I completed my last class for my certificate, so that was spring 2021. From there I was like, okay, maybe I'll go to school this fall. And so I applied to a couple schools. I applied to a couple places in Alaska, but I was like, I don't know, I'd probably just stay home. And then I applied to University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I was like, okay, if I get in, I'll go. I was thinking, maybe it was a real competitive school. I wasn't sure what it was. But anyway, I got into that school, and I completed all of my requirements I completed all of my credit requirements for my certificate, but I did never pass the test yet. You have to do an oral proficiency exam. Um, I did one of those in the spring when I was completing that, and I was like, oh, like I'm not sure if I'll pass, whatever. And then I go to school and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I can no longer like join those Zooms because like all of, you know, spring of 2021, we were doing all of that by Zoom. So I was like, oh, well, if I go to school, I can still kind of participate. But I actually left out a key component throughout the story. Sorry. I was working for Chinook Tribe during the school year of my senior year. And when COVID happened, um, a big part of what the tribe does is like, oh, we have to do outreach. And so I got approached by my language teacher. She was like, hey, would you be interested in teaching a very basic beginner class on Zoom? I forgot to mention this part, but that was March 2020. And I was like, sure, who's gonna go? And she was like, oh, we're just hoping to get, like kids from Kodiak or something, or, keep them busy. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. I have no materials. And she was like, oh, there's plenty of materials, but she'd give me physical paper. And so I'd like go type them out and do my own thing. So I taught that for a while. And that class turned out to not be what they expected. It actually was a bunch of adults that joined. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was 17 at the time when I started teaching that class. And so it was a bunch of adults. Leilani came at one point pretty early in the class. Anyway, so people would come, they'd come and go, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, I gotta restart, do it again, restart, do it again, new people, then it's the same people, and I gotta move forward with them. It's like, where? Anyway, taught that class. I've been teaching that class since March 2020, which has been really cool, even though I don't work at the tribe any longer. And that class has just like grown and blossomed, and it's become a study group kind of class for all the people that want to complete their OEC in Alutiiq language. And I'm like very open, ask me questions. I don't have all the answers, but I'll try and figure it out if you want them. But anyway, so I went to school, University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I was very busy the first semester, moving for the first time. It's such a big shock to go to school. And, coming from a small island in Alaska to then another small island, but completely reverse population, like the island of Oahu has more people on it than the whole state of Alaska does. So it was a big culture shock, let alone the heat difference. But anyway, so from there, I was really missing my culture and I was really missing my people, and so I was teaching that language class, and that was the one thing that could really fill me up while I was gone. Um, and then I got asked to teach a dance class. And I was like, dance on Zoom? And I was like, we did it for Kodak Ludic dancers when I was their assistant. I would host the Zoom classes and I would have everyone dance online. So I was like, oh, I've done it once before. So I said, sure. And so I signed up for that. And so I teach dance and dance language and singing, kind of. Singing's hard over Zoom because not everyone can sing at the same time. But anyway, did that. That started, I think, in December, and that went through like February. And then from there, my schedule kind of freed up and I was able to take like 3 language classes for not like credit, but like 3 Zooms. I could attend 3 Zooms a week to build my fluency again. And then from there, it was like that was really helping my class. And then it was just like solidifying my confidence in some things. And I continued to teach dance. I got asked for another contract from like March until June or not June, May. And yeah, so teaching has just kind of been like, people are like, oh, I want your knowledge, can you share it? And I'm like, I am no accredited teacher. I always tell people, that's not it. But at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, I'm working on a bachelor's in elementary education, and that's what I had worked on the year before, just online. And it's really cool because when you get a certificate in your native language, it also applies to your bachelor's. And so that filled a bunch of requirements, and I'm still on time to graduate as if COVID hadn't happened, which is really cool.
That's super cool. Um, you've been busy. What a beautiful example of just kind of stepping up when you were asked, and just stepping in the ways that you can with the gifts that you have. And I love the intergenerational learning.
It's so
that
much fun that way. It really is.
yeah, it's really awesome that just the intergenerational classroom. And when you were with our group, you really talked about like what kind of classroom you wanted to create, and even with your language class, like the agreements or the values that you hold really high. In your even in your online classroom, I have a feeling you would do the same in your in-person classroom. So my last question, this will be the last question, is what words of advice or words of encouragement do you have for people who are considering becoming teachers, who are considering, or even just starting, they're learning their language? You spoke about leaving home. What kinds of words of encouragement, or what words of wisdom, because you have wisdom now as well. You do. You're young, but you're so wise. Would you have for our aspiring teachers?
The first thing that immediately came to mind was when you mentioned talking about a classroom. I think that all of these movements to learn our language and to get our languages in a classroom are so important, but we have to be careful. And this is my opinion, but I would say try and learn your language in a non-Western like platform or setting. That's what helps me learn my language the most. Go outside, go throw a ball, go talk about you guys throwing a ball outside, or if it's like Alaska and it's rainy all the time, go to like the museum, or we have like a national, like, what's it called, like wildlife refuge that we would always go to when it would be cruddy outside or something. But go do like physical activities that get you to talk about what you're doing, who you're doing it with, all of it. That's for learning your language. When it comes to teaching a language, your language is like in particular, um, be gentle with those that are just getting into it, especially if you're working with adults. Like, I've been working with adults and it's kind of like, okay, maybe pull back a little bit, maybe push a little bit, because they're going to be hesitant with you. And in other ways, just always create an inclusive classroom. I have a very strong feeling about um, allowing all respectful people to learn a language. There's a weird kind of feeling behind like linguists trying to learn our language and whatnot. And I say that they, as long as they're respectful, inclusive, and understanding, they help me so much, because especially for us, our language is like written on an orthography book, and I'm like, I don't know how to read this. I'm not a linguist, but like to work together, we can do it. And that's really helpful to me. Um, and with that idea, I think about how, we're talking about like decolonizing a classroom, having an inclusive setting of a classroom. Well, to have an inclusive setting does not mean that we take our native and indigeneity, and put it in a classroom, and that's the only culture that's accepted in a classroom, especially if you're trying to like work in a high school or a middle school, or something other than like a charter school or an immersion school. Public schools, um I forget who was, but someone we talked with mentioned how, like, although it's a native classroom, talk about all of the women's rights of everything that's been uprising in the United States or other places in the world, and maybe talk about that in your native language, or say about you know uh, female African American speakers in the United States, or that's just an example I think of right now. But don't do what the English people have done to our language and our people by doing it again to them. If you're gonna push, they're gonna push, and it's just gonna be butting heads all the time. And there's a balance that comes with that. Uh, And again, it depends on what you're teaching, but I would say, like if you're teaching little ones, if you're teaching older ones, like whatever it may be, like try and have a relationship with the parents. Make the parents know that like you care about their child and that you're not just there because you're trying to make money. And that's just a very blunt way to put it, but like if you're going to be teaching and you're going to commit your life to teaching, please have a passion with it and please care about your students. And when I subbed for my mom's classroom a couple weeks ago, I got to watch kids read for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like a feeling I've never had before. And that's something that, within teaching, you'll find those things that it's like, whether it be every year you teach the same grade and you're watching the same kid or different kids do the same things, just notice the things that fill you up. I really love getting people to discuss and talk. It's a lot of fun when you kind of open up. And like I said, I work with adults the most right now. But like getting adults to just talk about like all of these decolonizing aspects of their world and, what they want to do, even though, they're not perhaps in school, or maybe they want to go back to school. And yeah, sorry, kind of just rambling, but those are just a couple things that I thought of off the top of my head.
That was a lot of things that, just like respectful collaboration and, just different ways that classrooms can be, like truly that's in my mind, like such a decolonized mindset at like the, learning as natural and
Hmm.
inclusivity, and of course like just really elevating the relevance and the relationships in the community. And you just spoke so much about doing what fills your cup,
Hmm.
and certainly I can see that teaching is what fills your cup. And for me, as someone who I taught for 20 years in the classroom, and I just feel so much gratitude and hope, and certainly talking with you has filled my cup. So I thank you so much. And I'm so glad you are the future of education.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Yay.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.